get ready. This could be the wildest HOA story you've ever come across. I've been living in California for some time now, and this incident takes the crown as the peak of all the ridiculous neighborhood association nonsense I've witnessed. It began in mid-June during a stifling heat wave when the whole area seemed unusually on edge. I started picking up on something strange with my mail deliveries. The envelopes appeared off, creased edges, seals that looked tampered with, like hands had already gone through them. At first, I let it slide. Perhaps the postal service was sloppy, or the muggy weather was weakening the adhesive. But it kept occurring repeatedly. The letters didn't have that crisp, just delivered feel. They seemed rummaged through and compromised. The suspicion lingered in the back of my mind, yet I pushed it aside. That approach held up for a bit until one particular delivery escalated into a full-blown crisis. I had submitted a passport renewal application. Definitely not the kind of document you can risk losing. Weeks passed with no sign of it. Every morning before heading to work, every evening upon returning, and even once around midnight when sleep evaded me, I checked the mailbox, still empty. My anxiety was through the roof. Eventually, I contacted the passport office. The representative reviewed their records and delivered the news that sent a chill down my spine. It had been dispatched the previous week. That was the moment everything clicked. This wasn't casual snooping. Someone was actively stealing, and it wasn't limited to flyers or advertisements. This involved critical government documents. I stood frozen by the mailbox that evening, glaring at it as if it had turned against me. The image of an unknown person digging through my private details left me queasy. Who could be so brazen? My thoughts raced through possibilities. Package thieves who had shifted to envelopes. A con artist hunting for checks, account numbers, or even identity theft material. Could it be someone from the neighborhood? That possibility disturbed me the most, because it implied they were familiar with my routine and movements when I wasn't paying attention. Sleep was nearly impossible that night. My brain kept returning to one undeniable truth. Someone was out there specifically going after me. Right away, I took the steps any sensible resident would. I set out to expose the culprit. The vanished passport was no minor oversight. It was a major issue. So I headed to the hardware store and purchased a couple of security cameras. I installed one with a clear view of the mailbox from across the street and positioned the other as a camouflaged garden fixture right in my yard. Now everything was under surveillance. For 3 full days, nothing unusual showed up. The recordings captured only children riding bikes, delivery people dropping off parcels, and the odd squirrel raiding my flower beds. I began doubting my own judgment. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe the mail had simply been held up somewhere. But on the 4th day, while reviewing the footage half distracted, I spotted suspicious activity near the mailbox. A person approached with deliberate, cautious steps. My heart sank. I froze the video and enlarged the frame. My teeth clenched in fury. It wasn't a random outsider or a porch pirate. It wasn't the mail carrier either. It was Karen, our neighborhood HOA president, the self-proclaimed ruler of the community. The same woman who issued warnings for trash bins left out a few minutes too long, who inspected grass heights with measuring tools, and who had penalized a resident over non-approved window treatments. And now, there she stood on camera, boldly sorting through my mailbox as if it belonged to everyone. I printed out the clearest images and marched straight to her door. "Care to explain this?" I demanded, thrusting the photo toward her. She gave it a quick look and dismissed it with an eye roll. "Oh, come on, you really believe this is me? That's ridiculous. Anyone can fake pictures nowadays. You're the one who could face serious consequences for spreading baseless claims like that." I stood there, speechless at her nerve. The evidence was time-stamped and unmistakable, yet she treated me like the guilty party. She didn't bat an eye. The smug expression on her face revealed all I needed to understand. Karen considered herself beyond reach. I could have reported it directly to the authorities or filed an official federal complaint, but that felt too straightforward for someone like her. If she wanted to fight dirty, I was prepared to meet her on those terms, and I vowed she wouldn't anticipate what was coming. I abandoned the courteous neighbor facade. Karen had gone too far, and her denial smirk kept echoing in my thoughts like an irritating loop. If she believed she was invincible, I would make sure she felt the earth shift beneath her. I refused to lose any more mail, and I definitely wouldn't allow her to keep mocking me. So I turned to classic petty retaliation. I dug into online discussions, tutorial videos, and consulted a buddy who handled electrical work for tips. I needed a response that stayed safe enough to avoid legal trouble but impactful enough to leave a lasting impression. That's how the idea took shape. I planned to wire my mailbox with a mild electric shock. Nothing life-threatening, just a strong enough jolt to make her yelp and think twice about every intrusive move she'd ever made. I gathered the materials and dedicated a weekend in my garage to assembling it. The process felt oddly satisfying. Carefully routing wires, securing connections, and linking the mailbox to a concealed control switch indoors. I ran a cautious test, activating the switch and touching it lightly to watch a sharp spark jump across the metal surface. For safety reasons, I left the device deactivated most of the time, and only intended to turn it on at the perfect moment. From reviewing the camera recordings, Karen typically made her move around 3 p.m., assuming most residents were away at work. I prepared everything carefully. That afternoon, I drove my car out of the driveway and left it several blocks away to create the impression that no one was home. Then I settled inside like a patient observer, mug of coffee ready, staring intently at the live video stream. Around noon, the mail carrier came by, deposited the letters, and moved on. Right at 3 low, almost on schedule, Karen showed up. She scanned the street in both directions, then marched up to my mailbox with her usual arrogant stride. She tinkered with the latch, leaned in closer, and the instant her fingers reached inside, I activated the switch. A sharp crack echoed through the air, followed by Karen's piercing yell that echoed across the entire neighborhood. She recoiled violently, arms waving wildly, her hair exploding outward as if she had jammed it into an electrical storm. And of course, the whole sequence was captured in crisp high-definition detail. The second Karen received the shock. She flung the mail aside as though it had burned her, and unleashed a scream loud enough to scatter birds from nearby trees. She stumbled back, gripping her hand, her hair puffed up wildly like a character from an old animated show. Neighbors started glancing out their windows, with a few even stepping outside to investigate the noise. Realizing she had spectators, Karen attempted to regain control. It was almost comical. She cried out theatrically, stamping her foot in frustration. "This mailbox is booby-trapped. That's against the law." She whirled around, hoping for support, but instead found people struggling to hold in their chuckles. A kid from across the street even grabbed his phone and began filming the scene. In no time, her outburst became the main topic buzzing through the neighborhood chat groups. Karen grabbed the scattered letters, slammed them onto my porch, and tried to leave with whatever pride she had left. But her hair remained wildly standing on end, making any attempt at composure impossible. The more she pretended to be unaffected, the louder the laughter grew around her. By the following morning, clips and screenshots of the incident were spreading everywhere online, her wide-eyed, shocked face turning into an immediate meme. The accompanying texts were merciless. Things like, "When you realize stealing mail is a federal offense and karma delivers the shock." Here's the real kicker. Karen never contacted the police. She could have tried, but she understood that doing so would bring my clear footage of her tampering to light. Tampering with federal mail isn't a simple local rule break. It carries real legal consequences, including potential prison time. So she stayed completely silent. For someone who enjoyed firing off violation notices in the middle of the night, her sudden quiet was incredibly satisfying. Yet the neighborhood refused to drop the story. At every cookout, block gathering, or casual conversation, the tale of the zap inevitably came up. And the greatest outcome? My mail has remained completely untouched ever since. The end. Do you think she received exactly what she had coming? Share your thoughts in the comments.